that's who was missing. Dawn. And oh, okay. That's right. There's room there. There's room over here, Dawn. Yeah. Well, you just shouldn't take up so much space and then you wouldn't be all alone. All right. Yes.
I saw that it was canceled, but I never got a notice or anything. Well, I know. It was never. No, it is.
I forget what I do. I do that and that. Yes. Okay, everybody, we're going to have a 2-hour meeting, so let's get started. We're going to finish all of hopefully chapter 30, all the sections in 30. It would be wonderful. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order and it is, I don't know, 10:02? 10:03. And I don't have my agenda in front of me, but we could start off with the pledge and Micah stood up first, so there you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I think next is roll call. So Sandy, if we could have a roll call, please.
Logan.
Here.
Butler. Bullock. Freeman.
Here.
Newquist.
Here.
Trinier.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Okay, next up is old business. So we're still working, just so you know, because we pledged this at the meeting in February that we're going to get these issues straightened out with chapter 30 and chapter 10, the Scrivener's errors, any other minor changes, and that'll come back to us again if we actually need to vote on anything. But it, for the most part, and I just got a copy of Jim's edits late yesterday. For the most part, I think it is just Scrivener stuff. But if it's not, then it'll come back to us to actually vote on. And I met with Phil Mock yesterday, our wonderful chief letter counter, number counter, ordinance counter. And he has talked with the state's attorney's office, and going forward, anytime we are making a change to anything that might affect an ordinance, the ordinance will come along with whatever we're voting on. So for an example would be like the rules, because our rules are reflected in the ordinances. So those things will come together going forward.
Yeah, I talked to Mary Tatro.
Oh, let me turn on your thing. There we
I
go.
talked to Mary Tatro, and we're gonna try to coordinate through our office when you guys are amending things. Like last year, you amended the swimming pool ordinance. But we didn't update the code of ordinances part of it. We want to make sure that they're always written in their right words so they get together. So going forward, once we get this caught up, and while we're getting it caught up, we want to always make sure that we keep current with all our modifications. So we don't have, we pass a resolution that minor changes something, but the code of ordinance doesn't reflect it. We want to always make it reflected so the public can find it easy if they need to.
And we made some changes like that at last month's board meeting. So we've got to go back and make some corrections. Yes, hold on, Member Newquist, if you would please hit your mic and I'll see if I can turn it on. Oh, and I also have number 5. Okay.
This is kind of a dumb question, but for Phil, do we update our own online ordinances or do we use a service that does that?
We use American Publishing, but they will update it whenever we tell them to.
Okay, so they're not
But-
doing it on a schedule or
gonna-
anything.
I want to talk to the county clerk to find out, we should be able to publish this ourselves.
Okay,
The reason we used American Publishing was years ago, it was never updated. I mean, we didn't have a code of ordinances.
Right.
We had all these separate ordinances. We paid that company money to research all our stuff and then put it into a code type form. We already have that.
mhm.
We may need to change our lettering or numbering system a little, which I've already am doing. But there's no reason to have with the age of computers, there's no reason with a third party vendor. Now, the nice part about them is they also print code of ordinances books.
Mhm.
that American Publishing does, and we still may have them do it for that purpose. Because state's attorney's office has several copies, land use, highway, they're like 2 books this wide.
Yep.
And they're out there, and that does help people page through them, but they are online now, and they're, it's gonna be basically, the county clerk keeps our records. It's her determination to use American Publishing or not, but I want to
Okay.
discuss it with her.
Okay, yes, I know a lot of municipalities, use the service. But the other downside of it too is they may, while they get changed online, they don't reprint those ordinance books very
They
often.
reprint, yeah, the ordinance books are the kind with the
The binders.
binders with the metal. and They'll
Right.
reprint the pages and you're supposed to substitute.
And they
them
will,
out.
okay, and they do that on an ongoing basis.
Yes.
It's not like okay, thank you.
Yeah, we get our updates once a year.
And you can leave your. Member Butler,
So you said we were going over chapter 30 today?
31.
Oh, I thought you said 30.
No, 31. 30 is the one that we talked about in our February board meeting where it was pointed out that there were some potential Scrivener errors and things. And so the county board speaker pledged that we would get all of that stuff corrected and then bring that back to the committee to make sure that we're good with it. But we're going to
So
move
this
forward.
committee is not going to do that. The staff's going to do that?
Staff's going to do some of it, and then if there's anything more than just Scrivener errors, we'll come back. I just got Member Richmond's edits yesterday. I did not have time last night to compare them, although we did talk during the meeting last month.
So I just want to mention that there was more than Scrivener errors.
Okay,
There's-
then it'll come back to the committee. I just said it. I think the speaker's on board with that. It will come back to committee and back to the full board.
so that-
Anything that's not a Scrivener error will come back to committee for discussion.
It'll go to next committees next month.
We could do it as
And
soon
then
as
it'll
next
go to
month.
next month.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, why not take care of it now? But go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You don't automatically go on, and please don't turn it off.
So I've got a copy of Member Richmond's edits. I'm creating another red line version of those edits. So I'll be ready. I should be done with them in the next day or so. So I'll be ready to forward them to the committee once those are completed.
Yeah, we just got them, so.
And one
Mr.
thing I
Mayor.
wanted to point out, everybody, Scrivener's errors, like the numbers, the lettering, you know what I mean? Capitalizations or non-capitalizations, those kinds of things are definitely Scrivener's errors. You
Right.
could change them anytime, because that's just something that goes into the final print. Anything in parentheses, like the statutory sites, are not part of your ordinance. That's for direction. So those are all Scrivener error type things, but anything that substantially changes the verbiage
The
from one
meaning.
to another would need board approval.
Right.
Mhm. Great. Everybody clear on that? No further questions on that? Okay, Member Freeman.
So I know that some of you are new to the committee. Vince probably remembers this and Phil probably and Sherry. We had talked about the numbering and the lettering was all going to be done at the end. It's not something that we're doing as we move along. correct?
Well, I'm trying to do it as we move along.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna send to every member of the committee. I have, but I'll type it up. We use so many different numbering systems because these were all passed at different times. And we might have want 1, 2, 3, A, B, C on others. I have on a piece of paper, like a hierarchy of how we number. And it's like letters, alphabetic in parentheses, numbers in parentheses. And I don't know what the order is, lowercase letters, numbers with just a half a parenthesis, Roman numerals, numbers with no parentheses, just a period after them, but they're all like hierarchy, which way you're supposed to go down on them. And that's what we're gonna eventually make sure they all follow, but I'm gonna type it up, send it to everybody, so you know what the pattern I'm attempting to do to get it in order.
Okay.
Phil and I discussed that yesterday because we went through some of these and we did find some of those kinds of mistakes. And I don't think he had his chart with him,
No, I didn't bring it.
but we
Yeah,
just,
because there was a discussion about how in-depth it is and how many there are and that the
Mhm.
content is what we're trying to work on and the numbering would come
Right.
later.
Right, but I'm
Absolutely.
trying to get it right so it looks right for everybody.
Mhm. As we go
But if
along.
we miss one or screw one up, that doesn't mean it's fatal if you pass it. It can get corrected because that again is a Scrivener's issue.
Okay?
So
Everybody-
just to be clear, that those two items are not Scrivener issues. The ones about voting are in decorum, when it talks about only when recognized by the chair, that language had to be changed.
Mhm.
And the language needed to be changed where it mentioned that tabling and postponing was to be handled in the same manner.
And
Those are not Scrivener errors. They're very serious technical.
understood,
verbiage
Mr.
that-
Butler,
Um,
understood.
Understand, and please, that I've already fought this twice in 2 county board meetings. I don't want to go to another county board meeting and have to fight the same thing
But we
3
voted,
times.
We
we
voted,
voted
We
to
voted
change
for it the
those.
first time too, and we had to redo it the second
Okay,
time.
but-
So I don't understand, and I just want to make sure that when we propose it the next time, that it's done correctly, so I don't have to sit there and debate on the
And-
floor another 10
No,
minutes.
you may not have to take it to the board because if you did it last time at the board,
Now, you just sat here in the last meeting and said, it was in the minutes, we voted on it, and you told me, well, that's the way it happens in Illinois. Sometimes things get missed, and then
if
you have
you,
to suck it up.
if you let me finish. Last board meeting, if you guys on the floor move to amend it, what will happen is it will be amended. We'll send it back to you for review and it should match what was amended on the floor. It should not need to go to the board again. But what we're doing, we're gonna bring it back next month to this committee just to look at it and say, is this what happened? Because if it didn't, then it has to go to the board. But it routinely, if you amend stuff from the floor, what happens is staff, before it goes to the executive for signature, should put those amendments in because that's what was done. What we're doing is it's gonna come back to this committee to double check that that in fact happened. It may not need to go to them
That's right.
again.
Okay, well, I hear you.
Next to
Not
last
trusting the
page.
process right now because, like I said, it's been happening over and over, so.
Dan, I've got it in my copy. When we get a nice clean copy again next month, we're gonna make sure the notes that I took at last month's board meeting match what's in the minutes and match what's in the updated ordinance that he's gonna send. Again, I'll restate what I stated at the beginning. Going forward, the state's attorney's office, whenever we have a resolution or any kind of a vote on the county board floor that might affect an ordinance, the ordinance will be attached and the 2 items will mirror each other. Okay, so that's where Mr. Mock said, we made a change to chapter 30 at the board meeting last month. So automatically, the change will go into chapter 30 before you see it again. And if you have any problems with what's in there and you're saying it doesn't match what we voted on, then you need to alert us at that time. So when we get our our meeting packet next month, is everybody clear on that?
And you'll have to check the minutes too.
Right, exactly. Okay, everybody good? Wonderful. Let's start with chapter 31. I did notice in 31.01, I think this is one of the ones where Phil missed striking the, what did you call it, Phil?
The section
chapter
number.
Section, the SS that's in front of 31.01. So that will be stricken because you guys had decided that all those SSs
We don't need,
are not needed. Okay? Please read over the red section and see if you see any grammatical errors or anything. But the numbering system that Phil said he was using, which is the capital A to start with, and then the subparts under it would be large numbers, 1, 2, and 3. So that follows his system.
and so everybody knows the reason we cut out the ethical standards for executive branch, it never should have been in here. You guys didn't pass that as part of your ordinance. That was an executive order they put themselves. And executive orders aren't part of the county code of ordinances. That's part of their own staff rules.
Okay? So that was
So
struck
why wouldn't it
by
be-
the last committee, by when Vince was the chair.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna say,
yes.
most of these red line changes are changes that we've already made,
Mhm.
like in
And
previous.
I'm
Got it.
asking everybody, I know Phil asked at the last committee that you review stuff, and if you have any questions, to call him ahead of time. And Phil did confirm with me, Mr. Mock confirmed with me yesterday, he got no phone calls from any committee member except for board member Freeman.
I didn't talk. to you
Well,
on the phone.
emails.
We had a
Emails.
long email.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so
Okay.
do we not have ethical standards for county board members? In
We
our
have ethi-
ordinances?
We have ethics training that we're required to do. I'm not
The-
sure of
the-
ethical standards,
The
Mr.
ethical
Mott.
standards are set by state statute
Okay. So they don't need to
For
be in an
county board
ordinance.
members?
for county, for everybody, yes.
And I think they are somewhat reflected in our rules and obviously reflected in the ethics training that we do. But there's no ordinance because it's already a law. It's in state
So,
statutes.
so the answer to my question is no, county board members are not, and the ethics for county board members are not written in our ordinances.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Right, if they would have probably been in chapter 30, and I don't believe they're in there.
No, I don't think there's anything.
But that's where they would have belonged, because chapter 30, I thought was county board.
Where can I find Judy's? This thing is- Oh, that's why. Okay. All right. Did that answer your question, Member Butler?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then we've got 31.02, and you can see there were some typos corrected or strikeouts and then paused it to be a capital.
And I'm gonna double check everything
Mhm.
to make sure when we refer to elected officials or elected bodies, they will be capitalized. I know I missed some, but
Mhm.
I'll go through them before I forward it to the staff again to move to the next level.
Okay.
Oops, sorry.
And when I went through this, I didn't see anything that caught my eye as being different, from what we discussed a year ago.
Right, I
Probably
know.
more than a year ago at this point.
It really has been, but we're here again. So, all right, if there are, and Board Member Ogala, if you could leave your mic on.
Thank you. Thank you. The only thing I saw when I was going through the whole thing is pretty much a generic statement is this also talks about appointments to boards and everything. And in most places it says county board, but it doesn't always say. So it should say county board everywhere throughout here where it should say county board. And others are appointments to various boards. Well, obviously that would not be county board. So that would be what I've seen.
So, okay, let's start with 3101.
Okay.
And I had this circle on number 2. It says report to the board. It should say county board
Mhm.
because I'd already circled
Oh, I
it.
got you. Okay, I
When you
can
go to
double check that.
31.02, in line 1, 2, 3, it says provided by law to be made by the board. It should say county board. And line number 4 with appoint with advice and consent of the county board. Okay?
Yep.
I don't think elected county officers needs to be capitalized because that's generic. It's not about a specific office. In the section C, line number 3, it says commissions to which appointments are provided by law to be made by the county board. Okay, all right. Now, anything else in those two sections?
See, to be approved or rejected by the county board.
That's what I just said.
I thought you said up above,
yeah, you
provided
said
by law
made.
to be
Oh.
made by the county.
Oh, wait a minute, you said C, hold on. Oh, I see the last one, I'm sorry, it was black and I didn't
It's
look at it.
black, right?
Oh, I got you.
Yes, Board Member Freeman. Yeah, leave your mic on, please. I hate these buttons.
Isn't it stated that county board and board can be used?
Yeah, but
Either
for
one.
purposes of style, it's better to uniformly use it. It's just easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no
know
trouble with-
Where I read that it was, you can use.
We had a
either or.
definition that said board that I thought said means county board, but
Right.
there's no
It's
need.
better
Okay.
to make it clear.
All right,
can
so
do
we're gonna
this.
go
It's
through
a
and make
couple
sure they all
extra-
say
I
county
will,
board.
your staff will do it to make sure that anytime we're
Mhm.
talking about the body, it won't just say board, it'll say county board.
Okay.
Yep, because when
Which-
you go to 31.03, which is our next. Mr. Butler, did you have something for the group? I'll turn your. There. you go.
Yeah, I was just asking because I thought maybe I was looking at this wrong
Mhm.
and I didn't want to interrupt
No,
the
that's
committee
okay.
because you were in 31 and I was just looking at 32 where it has ethic ordinance and it lists all the ethics
Okay,
that we have to follow for the county board.
Well,
I
it lists
just
for
asked
everybody.
that
you
question.
did. You
I
did.
just asked that question and it was said, no, it's not in there.
Okay,
This
well,
is the kind of thing
No,
that bothers
it's
me.
not under the county board. I said that there's an ethic ordinance that applies to everybody in the county. because the state
But
mandated.
it mentions the county board members.
But it
and-
applies,
and
I
elected
said
officials.
everyone, Dan, I'm
So
sorry.
That's not the way I understood your answer. So other people are included under the ethics.
Everybody is. The
Yeah.
State statute requires every county employee from the
did it,
executive
didn't
to the dog catcher. Everybody has to follow the ethics ordinance.
And it's for political positions.
No,
It
employees.
mentions political positions in here.
all
So I'm
and
just saying,
employees, everybody.
Why not
Okay.
the executive as well?
All right, well, let's,
And I didn't want to interrupt. I was asking on the
Let me-
side.
Because they're covered under the ethics ordinance section. They don't need their own. In the part you missed, this is the county code of ordinances, which is passed by the county board. If you look at the parentheses under 31, the one that was stricken out, it says Executive Order 89. The county executive just drafted it with their pen. They didn't take it to the board and say, please put this into effect. It should not belong in your county code of ordinances. Because
Do the words that are struck out, is that not part of the new statute? Did they change it?
no, the words that were struck out was created by the county executive themselves.
And
The
that's not
ethics
included-
ordinance under 32 is the words of the statute because the state law said you must pass it in substantially this language. There's several of them. Open Meetings Act, you have to follow in they tell you what to do in that. And that's what happened.
okay, let's go back to 31.03. We will get to chapter 32, maybe. We have 2 hours. All right, so in A, I think that we used county board, and then it talks about elected county officer generically again. In B, there were no changes, and talks about county government and county officers again generically. 31.04 is the procedure for removing or suspending any appointed person. A lot of language was struck there because I'm assuming it doesn't match state law. And yes, board member Bullock.
Okay, so as we go through this, can we just toss the large strikes to Phil and so let him say, this is why this was struck out, so that that becomes clear and we aren't all individually wondering why it's not there anymore?
Sure.
So,
And this is the part why it's really, really important to contact Phil before the committee, because the committee is
No.
already.
I'm not concerned with the fact they're struck out. I want to know why, because it's usually covered somewhere else. It's not part of the statute. As he was said, it's an executive order. It doesn't belong in here. Just an explanation of, this is struck because blank. Perfect. Move on. This is struck. I'm not going to email him and go, what is this section struck for? Why is this section struck? When we meet and he can just say, struck because of, it's found in another spot. It's not relevant anymore. It's whatever.
Part of the reason I believe that Mr. Mock asked that you call him is because the committee has already gone over these chapters. They've already reviewed them. And now the committee formation has changed. You're new. I'm a new chair. I just attended as a visitor before. That was the reason why, so that he wouldn't have to spend the extra time. I'm happy to have him. I'll just shut up and Phil, you just do the meeting.
Under the CY on 3103, why C was struck? Because that was placed in there before the law changed that said the executive has the ability to hire their own employees without approval by the county board. And that was referring to those type of subordinate deputies, employees. That's why that was removed. It got affected by the statute change.
And I am happy with you saying statute change. Cool.
And on 3104, for removing and suspending appointed persons, it's basically the same thing. The county executive determines their own standards why they want to remove or suspend people under their authority to hire their own employees. So that's why that is not needed. And that's covered under the change in paragraph A, where there is no more paragraph A, but it just says they have the power to remove or suspend his or her own discretion. And they cited a state statute that changed it to give her that authority.
31.05, line 3, where it says board, it should say county board.
Right. I will catch all those. You can mention them for me, but I'll do a search program for the word board and I'll also eyeball it, reread the whole thing and put county in front every time we do it.
If you want to explain why B was struck.
Same reason as before.
This is that new 505050. What is that? You quoted a lot.
D 5050?
Yeah,
No,
well,
what is
the one reason that struck is
the new?
that's covered by state statute that'd be no different than saying the sheriff doesn't have the ability to impact the coroner's office. The county executive can only do their own executive office, but not other areas of elected office holders. They're not a super elected official over the other office holders.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add on.
No, it's much of this is because of the change
Right.
in the duties of the county executive that,
Yeah, Senate
Yeah,
Bill
Senate
1015.
Bill. There we go.
That's a
Thank you.
lot of the changes.
Yeah.
You're correct. Yeah, you're right.
okay.
Okay. Board Member Williams.
I just had a question. 3105 seems like it says the exact same thing as 3101. Are we just making it true?
Let me double check. Good.
Yeah, 3101 gives it more in detail because it talks about the annual budget and the annual report to the board and the monthly financial reports. There are other reports that we do ask of the county executive. But you're probably right that 3105 could probably just be at least A.
Or you could eliminate that if you wanted to, because it
Yeah, it's duplicative.
is duplicative. And again, I wasn't trying to rewrite what you did. It was originally passed by the board in that double standard.
just noticed
So I left it.
When I was rereading it, so.
No, you're right.
But
It's the same thing.
But here's something that you guys might want to consider. If there's other type of annual reports on
That's the
different
difference.
things you want to have, this would be the provision where you could put it in there.
And I
Yeah.
thought, and maybe I'm wrong, but I know we wanted like a report from the mental health board, but that doesn't come from the county executive. We wanted a report on access will. But that's a specific program, and I know we said that in a meeting, and I don't know if we want to put every little report like that in here, because it's not annual. We were asking for those far more often. Board Member Ogala?
Yeah, so in this, I would leave this the way it is simply because the first paragraph that Sherry referred to, that is specific. Those are things she specifically has to give to us. This is more generic, so it gives us the opportunity to ask for anything. We don't know, maybe next month we want to ask for something else. If we make everything specific in our rules, then we may not have the authority to ask. So we want to leave it open-ended so that we can ask. That would be my take on this.
And one of the other things you could, if we might want to put under A,
I think you could strike B, though.
oh yeah, B.
B is the annual report, which is mentioned as number 2 in 3101.
I don't know.
C is not, C is just talking about monthly reports. And I don't believe.
True, I think B.
Oh, yeah, C is number 3. So yeah, B
Under,
and C could be strict.
well, what I'd recommend, well, C's got the
No.
monthly reports, but under B,
Mhm.
maybe you would like an amendment. And again, I don't make policy, but I'm willing to suggest it to you. And if you want to make it, that's why I didn't want to change it in advance. You could have it read, the county executive will prepare and submit such additional reports
Yes.
to the county board at regular county board meeting designated by the board. You know what I mean? So if you guys,
Yes.
you don't need an ordinance, resolution, give me this report at this time, then it's covered by your ordinance that that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that change
Yeah,
would be good.
yeah. That's.
So we would strike the word annual report and put in such additional.
Yeah, take out an annual
And annual.
and make reports and say such additional
Reports to the county board
or
at the
regular county board meeting
meetings.
designated by the board. And
And
that
could
way
it-
it's-
should it say regular county board and or committee meeting as designated by the board, or does it not matter?
I think it should go to the board.
Okay,
And the only reason I'm saying.
And everything does
Right.
anyway.
If you want it to go to a committee, technically it's going to the board.
Yeah.
So if you send them saying, please send to, I don't know, health, this report, that's to the board because that's part of the board and the board receives it then.
So if any board member wants a specific report, they would have to do is request the report.
No, you'd have to get the board to pass that report should be requested. An individual board member would.
This
you can
doesn't
request it.
pertain.
If they're willing to give it to you, fine. But if it has force of law, the entire board, you tell your board, I would like this ABC report. And the board does a resolution, doesn't need an ordinance, a resolution. We're requesting this ABC report to come to us on the fourth Tuesday of every month. Then they should provide it to you.
Okay. Board Member Freeman?
Okay, so it's gonna read something like this, if we add all these counties into it. The county executive will prepare and submit
Such
That's
additional.
report.
such additional reports to the county board at the regular county board meeting designated by the county board.
Correct.
Right.
County board.
Do we need to say county board meeting?
Crazy.
Member O'Gallagher?
Yeah, do we need to say county board meeting? Because we may ask for a report to be given at public health and safety or transportation, whatever.
So can we just leave out at the regular county board
You
meeting?
just
Is
say
that what
at-
you're
To the
saying?
board, I would,
Yeah,
yeah.
to the county board.
Then we
Desi-
can determine where we want the
All right.
report to be
What
given.
about requested by the county board? County executive will prepare and submit such additional reports to the county board per their request?
Well, what I was.
Or is that
Multiple
redundant? Do we
counties
not
in there.
need that?
What I was wondering is if
Be a
you
little
read as follows.
sarcastic.
The county executive will prepare and submit such additional reports to the county board as designated by the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the county board.
That's how you get it.
Right, designate how we get it.
That eliminates
Designated by
them.
the county
She
board,
has
yeah.
to still at least do one report a year, right?
That's in.
So now we get one
Yeah.
report a year, and then we only get another report if we get a majority vote of the board.
Copy, because my copy.
Or we've made it a regular procedure. 'Cause
Yeah.
We've asked for,
We
we
prefer-
we get the monthly report on the marijuana sales. We get, we've asked for quarterly on
Well,
access
finance,
will.
we
We've
have
asked-
a lot of,
I
we get
mean-
a lot of those.
So is that the executive committee asking for that then?
We've just,
No, it comes to the committee that requested it.
Yep.
Well, I just asked.
no, yeah,
The
we.
person from the board could request it.
Well, the committee would, or the board would, bring it to leadership. Yeah.
So it has to be a committee, one of the committees that have to request it.
You can always request it anyway, just
Right.
on your own. It's
There's a lot of conversation.
Yeah, can we slow down, guys,
Have to give it-
please?
And she has to.
But if a committee asks for it,
Sandy has
So
to
maybe
do
it
minutes.
should
We
be
need
in
to
that.
take turns. Raise your hand or I'll turn off everybody's mic. Yeah, there won't be any minutes. Sandy's job is hard enough. Yes, Mr. Butler.
so can you add into that language, just to be specific, that the executive shall, provide a report if requested by a committee?
Don't know, a committee doesn't really have a legal existence.
I think just by the county board, because that
We
does
do it as a
apply. the
So
county
when you
board
say
and
the
its
county board,
committees.
who's the county?
We are.
Yeah.
Do we need a
Right.
vote for that? Does it have to be a majority vote?
Yes.
We've not.
I said that when I started.
It's never
So I,
been
that
a
was how I
problem.
led that
Do we really
conversation
wanna-
off.
Do we really want to make a problem where there is none?
No.
Jackie.
But you
Mhm.
gotta
Board
realize,
Member O'Gallagher.
anybody can ask for anything. I call them IT and say, run a report for me.
Phil, turn your mic on, please.
That I have.
No, somebody knocked it off.
No, I call off IT and say, run a report on this and they'll run it for me. I mean, you can basically, they all work with you.
Right, so if anybody can ask, and anybody here could ask the executive's office for a report, if the report is not given to us, then we would go through our process here and we went forward, probably our chief of staff typically to say, hey, can you get this report? Chief of staff sends an email, blah, blah, blah. And I've never seen us denied a report that we've requested.
If it exists, we get it. Can we go to the letter C? And can we agree that it's the same as number 3 in 31.01, word
Yes.
for word? So can
Yes.
we strike letter
It's
C?
not the same, that says monthly.
monthly financial reports. It is a duty of the county executive to provide advice to the county board's finance committee on the financial condition of the county and its future financial needs, not less than monthly.
Yeah, I must have been on the wrong one, sorry.
Yeah, we can strike C.
I
It's
mean,
just
we
a-
got really wordy in number 3. And to even pare it down and just repeat the same thing seems
31.
duplicative.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I know.
Right.
Folks, this stuff has been discussed, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement. But this is why, again, Mr. Mock has asked that you read the material before the meeting and give him a heads up if you have questions. That way, we can move along a little quicker, just in these chapters that we've already went through ad nauseum.
Well,
And I think I'm speaking for the vice
with all-
chair.
with all due respect, we're talking about doing things different than what he has presented to us. We're talking about striking C now. So that, I had no question to ask because it wasn't being stricken. So now that it's being stricken, it has to be discussed. So I understand what you're saying and I can appreciate that, but you know, just keep things focused here.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to take issue with Member Williams because she should have saw it was in there twice.
I
And
did not
told
see it. This is
And
how I should have.
before.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm gonna write
Well,
down
I'm sitting
strike
here
one
wondering,
for
why
Sherry
did
Williams.
it-
Yes,
You know.
strike 1 for Member Williams. You're the note taker. Strike 1 for Member Williams. Okay. Can we go to 3106?
Please.
Anything in 3106? I dare I say 31.07?
I just wanted to let everybody know on 3107, the reason I struck the is authorized to exercise and control over his office, because the new law gave him that authority. Prior to that, the county board gave him that authority.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to let you know why that was stricken, because it's no longer needed.
I have just a numbering question.
Sure,
If we didn't have any other parts to that, that's why we don't have an A there?
correct.
Okay,
If you don't have a sub.
learning your system.
Well, we need one, right?
Okay, any other questions for this chapter 31? Okay, can I get a motion?
We were talking about something, Sally. Sherry, I might be writing strike 2, I don't know.
No, I'll like.
Williams, what is it now?
No, just because this has been an issue since I've been on the board,
Uh-huh.
the, any request for space by any county official, elected official, office holder shall be filed in writing. And then it says it will be approved or denied within 2 weeks. That's our own language here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean.
Where are you reading?
Yeah, we've just
I
never,
see.
3106C.
let's see, we've just never really enforced it, I guess. I mean, we haven't pointed out that this is the rule.
Well, it's the rule because we say it's the rule,
Correct.
but I don't like the rule. So
Okay, what would you like to?
I'd like that gone.
What do you want the rule to be?
And she will supervise the use of the county office space.
Just that?
You don't want to give the other elected officials the opportunity to put something in writing and get a response in writing?
Well, that includes us as well, right? So,
Yeah, but I mean,
and if she says no, then it's just no, and maybe it shouldn't be no.
I mean, because Jackie, if I could speak,
yeah, go ahead.
when I was the chair, I did ask for an office.
I know.
And there were 3 or 4 open offices and I was denied and given a little push card.
Mhm. Well, she is, I mean, it says here she's allowed to deny.
So
This just gives a process where you're
And it gives
supposed to
you-
put it in writing
He's
and
supposed to
get a
get
response
2
in
weeks
writing.
back. That's the
2
key.
weeks.
I understand the sole decision rests with her then,
Yes.
and I mean, I don't know.
but do we
if
want to override that? Because she did give me an office. She gave me the office outside of Carol's room, if you remember. And then the very next day in a leadership meeting, she gave it to me a long time ago, Jackie. And then the next day she took it away, said it was used too much, although we know that it wasn't. She just didn't want to give me an office. So, I mean, maybe we need to say something that if it's reasonable for an elected, because not every county board member would get an office. but the chair, speaker, whatever the title might be at the, who knows what it'll be called next time. That person, it's good to have a space for their things. That would have been something.
But I'll let Mr. Mack speak.
Unfortunately, the statute that sets out the county executive says they control all
offices.
the grounds and offices and everything. You can't usurp one office holder's authority. That'd be like saying, we're gonna pass something that says, we think we want to decide for the state's attorney who they're gonna charge.
So this is specific in the statute,
It's,
this
well,
particular thing?
It's in-
the only part that's specific in the statute is the fact that she controls the executive controls all the offices of
Correct,
everybody.
I know she does. So I know she
Except there's
does.
exceptions. The statute also says the sheriff controls the jail.
Right.
And believe it or not, the sheriff controls the courthouse, even though the judges think they do, but it's in the statutes. But
Mhm.
all this, why this was put in there, it recognizes that they control the space. The control you were putting on them is we want feedback for all the elected officials, department heads, and the county board within 2 weeks if you're gonna give us our space or not. Because otherwise, they could make requests and never get anything back.
So I believe the reason why I wasn't given an office is just political,
Oh.
period.
Very well could be.
And we can't,
They're not
Make
gonna
it
do about it. You
Nothing
make
you
it
could-
political back and say, we got a bad county executive because they wouldn't give me office space and vote the rascal out of office. It's no different when they decide, we don't want to expand the public defender's office. They don't need so many desks and chairs because we don't want to give it to them. We're mad at them. They're allowed to be mad at you and be petty and vindictive. Your comeback
pretty
is
crazy.
to vote the rascals out of office. That's how the statute's set up.
So are we allowed to ask?
Mr. Butler, Board Member Williams.
I
had her hand.
actually, I don't have a problem with, getting an answer to a request. That's not what I'm talking about. If she's supervising the use of the office space and then it says the county executive has the right to reassign the space as needed. That is different than just you don't want me to have any office space and you just deny my request. So to me, supervising the use of county office space does not mean that you just get to deny at will.
Member Williams, what would you like
Supervise
to
is
do?
supervise. That's not the same thing.
That's not denied.
Exactly.
What are you suggesting?
Well, like I said, I don't, if we want to put in there that they have to put the request in writing and have to be answered within a certain amount of time, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so it's the last sentence you'd like to strike?
No, I'm saying, you guys are saying that this says to be approved or denied within 2 weeks,
Mhm.
will be answered within 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shouldn't
Are
we
you
go one
okay
step
with this?
forward?
Or no,
I have, the answer is not approved or denied, it's just answered.
it
I-
says request will be approved or denied within 2 weeks.
I know, that's what I'm talking about, taking out.
Oh.
That gives a
That's
Well,
what I'm
timeline.
wondering.
can I add something,
What-
Sherry?
2 weeks to respond. Now, she can respond any way she wants, that's fine. It doesn't really just give her the opportunity to just deny us, is what I'm saying.
But the
Yes.
state gives you the opportunity.
No, it does not. I read 2009 and it does not.
Sharon, what about including in the language here that the executive must provide office space for the leaders, whether it be the executive committee speaker and the two caucus leaders? I mean, it seems reasonable that they would need a place because they're here more often, that they would need a place to work. So what about adding that language?
Well, I just brought it up because like I said, it just seems like, it supervise and control is not the same thing.
All right, Board Member Freeman.
So
agree.
I don't have a problem with this. I mean, if the last sentence wants to be removed, but Mr. Mock has already said that the reason it says 2 weeks, request approved or denied, has to do with some past dealing.
Well, people would make requests for office space and they'd never hear back. So it's hard for each office to plan what they're gonna do.
So we need to leave that in there because that's a valid point.
And if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't even need any of it because you don't have to put it in your ordinances because the state statute already addresses it. The only thing the state statute doesn't address is how fast the executive has to get back to you with the response.
So, I mean, personally, I think
Well, I just asked. a question.
we were not given something that we asked for, so we're trying to make it that we can get what we want.
Well,
And that is not, in our purview. We cannot.
No, it is and it isn't.
That's why
You're wrong.
No,
Deny.
it is,
We have to get over that.
it is and it isn't. Because if they denied you any space, you could sue them at court. Because they have to give you reasonable space, but they get to decide what's reasonable unless they're totally off the wall.
Mr. Pelkey would like to say
Sure.
So
something.
No, he
I
just,
think
he
it's
just,
fine.
yeah, he just answered what I was gonna say. Isn't there a
There's a
reasonable
recourse
clause
requirement and
within-
everything.
yeah,
And
okay.
there's
Yeah,
recourse.
yeah.
Okay. Miss Ogala.
Yes, sorry, Jackie. If I read Q, Q says perform such other duties as shall be required of the county executive by the board. So there's no reference to space at all
Where are
Q.
you now?
In the statute.
in the
itself.
statute.
Well, that's for the 2 weeks. That's why Q's there. Because the statute,
Oh,
do you see what I mean?
I
That's-
see what, so you're
that's for-
referring to that.
Referring to that,
So we have the right for the 2 weeks.
right. You set that as what you're wanting them to give you the answers back on.
It's a reasonable expectation.
Right.
I think it is a reasonable expectation.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
And in real life, nobody does it in writing. They call them up on the phone and say, I need more space. What can you do? I don't know if they've ever said, please put it in writing, but we set it up that way. So there's a record to prove the 2 weeks.
And that's fine. We can ask.
Yeah.
Just, we don't have to, part of their board rules is what we want. So some of it is statute and some of it is what we want. We can ask for additional things. And these are our rules, these are our ordinances. We can do that. So Phil's job was to go per state statute and list it and take things out and correct it. But
No.
we do have many things in this that we can make a decision about. This may not be one of them,
Although
except we do to ask for 2 weeks.
I don't want to give you the wrong advice, even though the statute says she controls all that. There's an argument to be made, and I don't know how valid it is, that if you passed a resolution of the board that said, we want an office space for leadership, if the executive signs that, then they have to give it to you. If they veto it, they don't have to. The question is, if they veto it and if it's overridden, is that then a usurpation of their power and they don't have to follow it? These are not clear things.
There hasn't
And
been a
there-
court
and
case.
There's no court
Correct.
cases. And there's also the theory that an elected office holder cannot contract past their term of office.
Correct.
So the sheriff can enter into a contract to buy squad cars for the next 50 years from Chevy. Because each office holder gets to do it. So there's an argument to be made that even if your county executive currently signed it and gave you the office space, that doesn't necessarily bind the next county executive, could remove it from you. I just wanted to let you know there's all these nuances to how this works.
Sure, but if we did pass a resolution stating that, in my opinion, the speaker, chair minimally should have an office space. The next one wouldn't, but the next board could go ahead and pass another resolution.
Right, but the thing is then if they've executive vetoed it and it was overridden, the executive could still go to court and say they're usurping my authority and they can't do it.
She could, but
But
would she?
but those are some of the things you gotta look at.
Yeah,
So are you saying that there's no provisions at all for county board members who are in leadership to have a space to work while they're here?
There's no provisions for anybody to have
Except for
space.
everyone in the executive office. So
No.
no one, no county board member.
No,
has
I'm
that.
talking even elected officials. If they want the auditor to work out of a closet instead of their office, they could make the auditor work out of a closet.
So
And
if
then
they
the
want-
auditor would have to go to court and say, that's not reasonable. And then that's what would happen.
So if they wanted the county clerk's office at the Copperfield building now, they wouldn't have a choice if that's what the county executive. wanted.
Right.
Just-
Member Newquist, did you have a question?
I think it's been answered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it's fine. If that's what we want. leave it.
Can we go to 32?
yes,
Do we need to take a vote on 31 that we're going to send that to the full board?
I would.
May I have a nomination or a motion
Could you say as amended?
as amended?
I make a motion to send this to the county board, chapter 31, as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
I'm not sure that the ad hoc committee can go directly to the county board. I think
Oh,
they would have to-
Sorry.
It goes to
Yeah,
executive.
Executive, okay.
It goes to executive, but it's,
we're
Do I need to
done with
revert
it.
that?
They're following the
Make a
provisions.
motion to send this chapter 31 as amended to the executive.
And I'll still second it.
Thank you. Can we have a previous roll?
Roll call.
Roll call. Oh, let me turn you on, Sandy. No, it's all right.
All right, cool.
Logan,
Yes.
Butler,
No.
Freeman,
Yes.
Newquist,
Yes.
Trinier,
Yes.
oh, Bullock.
Yes.
And go ahead. Just to be clear, this will not go to the executive committee on Thursday.
Good.
It will be next month. So understand, this is at 2-hour meetings, we did one chapter in 52 minutes.
Cool. That means.
How you
we're
know
gonna
how
get
Vince
on with it.
felt?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Welcome to the ordinance committee, Jackie.
I know, I've been here before.
We did.
Chapter 32.
For the second time.
All right, Phil, do you want to start off by talking about the bonds?
Right, thank you. I added a few bonds in red because they weren't listed in our previously ordinance. All these bond amounts come out of state statute. The reason, except for some of these bonds, you guys determine what the proper bond should be. So I used the figures of what your current bonds are, assuming you still think they're appropriate. Bonds are stupid, in my opinion. It's a carryover from the old days. A bond was in order to sue a governmental official. There was actually money there from an insurance agency to get money if you won that lawsuit for some reason. But it's a carryover from the 1800s. They still have them. But nobody ever gets sued on their bond. They get sued for civil rights violations and damages and all those type of things. But these are set by state law that we have to have these bonds for these people. I wanted to point out one thing to you. The county executive right now entered into $1 million bond before taking office. There's no statutory requirement for it. If you want to have us put it into here, we could, but I don't recommend it. Because theoretically, then you're impacting the county executive's ability to serve in their office. Because if you say, besides the requirement of being elected by the voters, you also have to have a requirement of getting a bond. I don't know if you have the authority without a state statute behind you to put that condition preceding on their taking office. I've talked to their office. I don't know if I told them, please don't continue to do bonds unless you can find a reason why you're doing it. It's a waste of money. Some of the things that I wanted to tell you also about bonds is I want everybody to look at paragraph C if they could. And the reason I put that in there is right now we pay, and it's like, I don't know, $3,000 for the state's attorney. And his bond is 5,000. No, it ain't $3,000, but it's $3,000 for like the treasurer who's got $1 million bond. It's not a lot of money, but it's money. The fact that we are self-insured, we can bond ourselves. We can file a document with, and I'm not even gonna tell you where these have to get filed because the statutes say some go to the Secretary of State, some stay here, some go here and then get forwarded to the Secretary of State. Some go to the judicial AOC, the administrative office of the courts. All these bonds go different places. But if we're self-insured, all of us, except for the county collector, we can do. The county collector's bond and the county collector and the county treasurer are the same thing. County collector is named under the Revenue Act, which is what gets real estate taxes for everybody. They do not have in that statute the fact that a county could self-bond. I talked to our treasurer to have him go to his treasurer association to try to get that language put in. So it'll match all the other bonds, but I just wanted to let you know, I want that language in there. We don't have to, we can still go to insurance companies like we do now, but we could save money in the future and self-bond.
So I have 3 questions so if the county takes care of these bonds, does that increase our budget?
No,
So under the current budget, they could pay all these bonds. Okay. There's different amounts for different offices, so I'm assuming that there's a reason. And if the county treasurer goes down to, $150,000, why is it the superintendent schools would go up to 100,000? Like, what is the reasoning behind that?
well, the treasurer went to 1,500,000. They went up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was okay,
No,
they went up, but why
They-
does the superintendent of schools go up so high?
Because
We
of the-
understand that,
because of the populations. The state statutes on bonds cover the whole state. When we originally passed this at 12,000, they didn't differentiate by population. The state legislature after that changed the law and differentiated by if you have over a certain population, you have to get this bond. Because of the size of our population, the superintendent of schools has to be 100,000. All these figures that I changed match what the state statutes require. The ones that didn't change, like county sheriff, that didn't change. County clerk, that didn't change. But it still may say that we pick it. It may not say it in the state law, but I picked the same thing we already picked. Not to change it, lower it or
I have
higher.
no doubt that you have the right numbers, and I was just curious, why isn't the auditor and the superintendent of schools the same territory, or
No,
is the
and
auditor?
it makes no sense to me why any of this is there. It's just the state legislature said these are the amounts. I don't know.
It could be because the superintendent of schools probably gets sued a lot.
Well, this,
Can-
no,
Can get lots of parents.
it's not because they get sued, it's because they have money that they pass through.
Oh,
Regional superintendent gets state
that
money
makes
that they pass through. You'll notice the treasurer's high,
mhm.
superintendent of schools are high because they deal with money.
Is it a risk of ethics, like if, for ethical reasons, if they do something wrong,
If
because
they,
they're controlling so much money, that they're more at risk, or?
well, yeah, because they can get what's called sued on their bond, but again, that was something from the 1800s. All the cases on sued on bond are really prior to 1930 probably. But they did something wrong and somebody would sue them on the bond and the bond would pay the judgment.
And the way the bonds work is when someone goes to sue them, if they don't respond or they don't acknowledge, then they can go right to the bond and bypass them, or?
No, they file a specific suit called suit on bond. They notify the bondholder. The elected official has to notify the bondholder that we're being sued to and the bondholder is in the case then. But again, nobody does that. This is just a state statute that is a carryover from olden days. It's still on the books and we have to follow it because it's state law.
Mr. Mack, can we change these numbers in any way, shape or form as a board?
Some of them you can, but I don't know
Which ones? Those are the only ones I want to talk about.
I
The
don't,
rest of them are state statute. There is no need to have this discussion.
I
You
don't
have
know.
more than thoroughly explained the process. I would like to move on.
Yeah, I don't know I really don't know. I didn't differentiate, but all
Okay.
the ones that we said are the low ones, like 5,000, like corner.
Okay.
So I don't know if you'd want it lower. I don't know why we'd ever want them higher. Yeah.
I believe the county is covered by the same insurance that the township is, ICRMT. It doesn't even matter who's in that office. It could be me, it could be you. And you might think we have different credit ratings and different risks, but ICRMT covers you no matter what. So there really isn't any discussion here that I can see. If we can't change in any meaningful way that it would make a difference, and if someone would like to make a change, please make that motion. Okay, let's go to 32.002.
And I don't think that had really any changes.
Nope. Anybody want to make a change? Okay, 32.003, county clerk. You want to explain striking the county manager?
Yes. We had, back when the county board was the executive of the county, prior to the County Executive Act, obviously, the county board chairman had a real job and didn't want to be here all day running the day-to-day operations of the office. So the county board decided we needed a county manager. They created that position and the county manager was like somebody like Chuck, who's now chief of staff, but they really ran the day-to-day work of the county. That's no longer needed because we have a county executive. So I struck all that.
32.005, county treasurer. Any questions? 32.006, supervisor of assessments. Do you want to explain the
Yeah, you
strikeout?
had to strike that because we had a supervisor of assessments really before, back when the statute said you could create a supervisor of assessments. Our population reached such a level that it is automatically created by the statute, which I cited. So we no longer have to create it. And the one up above, it said the contract of employment shall provide compensation. I took that out because we no longer need a contract of employment because the state statute requires that person to be there. So we don't contract them, but then they have to follow all the state rules. Once they're the supervisor of assessments, you follow the statute.
Any questions on that one?
Okay, while we're there, can I bring something else up? And we discussed this. I want you to look under that supervisor of assessments at the very last thing. And I don't know how you want me to do this, but I want to do it consistently. I cited the statute 55 ILCS 551005, and then I put paragraph 3. It's not really paragraph 3, it's sentence 3, but there's no character for sentence. I can either take the 3 out and the paragraph or leave it, but you'd have to read the whole thing, which is pretty big. I'm trying to direct you rightly to the exact sentence that covers this. What do you want me to do? And I'll make it match because I use that one over and over again.
So I would say, since there is no sentence 3, can't you just put it in there and say dash sentence 3?
I could put
Or
third sentence. Yeah,
I would say that makes it easier.
I will do that, but I just,
Because third paragraph, I would look to the third
Right.
paragraph.
no, there is no third paragraph though.
Oh, there is no third
It's
paragraph.
one paragraph, but it had a lot of sentences, but it was a big paragraph.
Yeah.
Wherever, and that comes up a lot because that's like you can do whatever you want to do to conduct your business. I will go through these. And again, that's a Scrivener's thing for 30. I will go through them on there. And from now on, when I do my stuff, how I will list it, I will put 55 ILCS 551005, third sentence.
Unless it's paragraph 3, third.
Right, no, if it is a
Yep.
paragraph, I'll put
I
paragraph.
think that'd be good for clarification.
But I wanted to let you know that because I didn't know how to handle it and I thought I'd bring it up.
You turn it on.
We just,
I keep talking, so I don't want to leave myself on. Thank you, thank you, Chair. So you're gonna do this for every single one? Tell us what line and paragraph?
No, no. The only one
that
I was
seems
doing it in was
strange.
105. That was the only one that had them.
Okay, because I
Because
think
10,
that is a little extreme.
no. It was
So,
only just in that one.
Okay,
And I could have left it out, but then you'd have to read the whole thing and not know where I want to go to. And I don't, I could do it that way too, but it's pretty big and I want to make it easier for people to find.
okay.
all right, 32.007. You want to explain the strikeout?
We don't have one. That was a simple answer. We no longer have a building officer. We had one years ago, but we don't have one.
32.008.
That, no
Any
change.
questions? 32.009.
I had to change the name is all.
Any questions? 32010, Building Code Authority. Any questions?
I just have a quick question. What does et seq mean?
That
Is-
sec means and consecutive sections after that.
Got it. Thank you.
Instead of just listing the first one, you list, so you know it's the whole provision.
I couldn't remember that. We talked about it.
32.011, Health Authority. Any questions? 32.012. Nothing?
I got a question.
Yes.
Where are we gonna add S to one of those? Make it assistance? That's what I got in my notes. So we can have more than one assistant.
And the only thing I would add is it says chair and it should say chair speaker.
Oh, yeah, I
Um,
missed that. I'm sorry.
Where's that one at?
See that?
The last sentence.
Last sentence. I'm trying to make it always say chair speaker. And
I think you're probably right. I mean, it gives them the option to hire more than one.
sure.
Do you,
Do you want to
would
put
you-
it in parentheses?
No, what we want to do is take out is and put in our.
Oh, well then,
It would read, county board creates the office of administrative assistant to the county board who are appointed by the county board chair speaker, because that's plural.
do you have to put an S under the title where it says administrative assistant to county board? Or
No,
do you
because
just
it's
leave
the
it?
office of administrative assistant.
It doesn't.
How
say-
about we say and such other assistants?
Perfect.
Whereas.
Because then you have one boss and other underlings.
So we'll say the county board creates the office of administrative assistant
And such other assistants to the county board. Or you can say administrative assistant to the county board and such other assistants. Where would you like that placed?
I think after county board,
After county board, all right,
sounds clean.
and such other assistants
Okay,
who are appointed by the county board, because that's all right. I can change that any way I want.
we good with that? Can you type it in while you're there? Okay, 32.013. Can you explain?
Yeah. There was a statutory position of deputy supervisor of assessments. They don't use it. They don't have it. They have a person they call the deputy, but it doesn't fall under what that definition of deputy supervisor of assessments are. So I talked to the assessor's office and they said, we don't use it. It shouldn't be there. So I wanted it taken out.
32.014. Any questions?
The statute in the past had the public defender and his assistants that you elected to do. Now the state statutes require you to indemnify them. The state statutes allow you, if you choose to indemnify the regional superintendent of schools and his assistants. So I just switched them because everybody else by operational law, you indemnify, including the public defender. But if you choose to indemnify the regional superintendent of schools, you got to include it. If you don't want that, we can just strike that, but I would recommend leaving it in because when you indemnify him and do that, he's gets more rights under the local governmental public employee tort indemnity act. So they get more defenses on. It's harder to sue them when they make decisions and things like that.
Rogala, did you have a question?
I was just wondering, so we do that because it isn't here?
You right now, you don't have it in the state statute.
Don't
does-
have it.
You don't have it. The state statutes say you may indemnify him. It doesn't say you shall.
Okay.
I took public defender out because it used to say may and now it says shall for public defender. So you didn't need it here.
Okay.
So I switched it.
So I think we should, but how do we do that?
It's done.
Just do it in
Just
this.
done by that.
That's what this does.
All right,
I just took the one out that doesn't apply and put one in that does.
thank you.
Member Newquist.
So this might be outside the scope of this committee and let me know if it is, but who decides whether or not we're going to indemnify the regional superintendent
You
of
do.
schools?
We do.
That's what you'd be
Okay.
doing by passing this.
So this is basically, but I wasn't sure. So this is basically giving the county board the right to decide. Oh yeah, the county board believes in hereby declares it is in the, okay,
Yeah.
got
We're
it.
saying that we
Yep.
agree that they should be indemnified, just like all the others that shall be indemnified.
And this is the only office that's optional for.
Right, all the other ones are covered. State's attorney,
Got it.
county clerk, they're all by law, you indemnify them.
So does that mean like if they get sued or
Yeah,
that you cover, which goes back to
it
the
goes to
bond
tort
issue?
immunity.
Which goes back to the bond issue, like you wouldn't need a
No.
bond for that person because
It's two separate things. Two separate things. Again, the bond doesn't legally need to be there. It's a carryover from olden days.
but from olden days, it was to,
It was the only way to get money from them.
yeah, right. And if they didn't pay and they had to come up with a bond, then they probably wouldn't get their bond again and they wouldn't get elected.
And the other thing, you gotta realize, if anybody does get sued on the bond, the bonding agency pays it, but they sue the person individually to get the money. then that person individually would say, I'm indemnified by statute to the county, so it's your money anyway. The bonds are useless right now. But you still have to do it because the law requires it.
So then the indemnify protects them from people collecting on the bonds and them having to pay it. Is that what you're saying?
No, the indemnification is different. The indemnification means if they get sued, tort immunity pays for it from the county. It doesn't just come out of their budget.
Well, so they didn't get to our bond.
Right, they don't even, it'd be two separate suits. You'd either sue them for like a civil rights violation or for misfeasance in office, or you could sue on the bond for some other reason. It's two different avenues. Nobody ever uses the bond avenue because they don't have enough money. Everybody wants multi-millions of dollars. And the bond's limited, 100,000, who, they don't even want to sue you for that. So,
Additional language kind of spells out what happens.
yeah.
Well, some people were using the bond a couple years back, going after superintendents at schools over masking. And if they didn't resolve it, then they would have to, they would be liable. They could have, their bond could have to pay it, and then they would lose their position. So it was used a little bit.
But
Okay,
never against the county.
not against the county. May we move forward?
Just saying.
32.030, would you please explain?
Yes. The whole thing
that?
was.
31 too.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a second. Sorry, because I thought that was another section. It wasn't. What is Viz, V-I-Z, in B?
Where, what?
Ms.
In
Word
B of
Ms.
32.014.
That's just more on the same thing. They struck out public defender.
No. There's V-I-Z in my print.
I don't see a VIZ.
No, I see it.
Oh,
Vis-a-vis, I think. it's
Yeah,
numbered.
that should be stricken.
yeah.
That should be stricken. That, I left that in there because you had it in it when you passed it the first time. But
Perfect.
you don't need it.
No.
That's weird. I thought
Nobody
that
can
was
tell
a
us what
type
it-
old school.
No, that was,
Legally is.
yeah, no, that was,
You go vis-a-vis?
yeah, that's what it means. But you don't need it.
Okay,
Anything
perfect.
else in 32.014? Next section?
Okay, on 3230. Again, back when the county board was the executive, emergency management operated under them because they were executive. And they wanted to have a chain of command when the tornadoes hit or the flooding down on the Kankakee River. So they said, this person is the top rung of emergency management, which was the county board chairman. And then they had a whole hierarchy in case they weren't available. Right now, the hierarchy above your emergency management coordinator is the county executive because they fall under the executive's branch. That's why the chain of command was taken off. Same reason for 32031.
But what, can I ask, what happens if the county executive's not available? Maybe she's on a trip to Europe.
She should appoint somebody to do it or,
So if she's not here, she should appoint somebody.
right,
Okay.
yeah. And then the duties of the county clerk to just maintain that list is no longer needed. So I struck the next section 32031.
Code of conduct, 32045. Any questions?
And that was that statute I put 55 ILCS 551133. This is another one of these things that basically said we have to pass it and it's got to be like in this substantial form. And that's why this one really didn't change because it's what the state statute was and still is.
32.046. Questions? This is your ethics, by the way. This is for all employees, every elected person. 32047. Thirty-two oh four eight. 49. We're moving. Scary. 50. 51. Wow, whole page. 52. All right.
Can I back you up on 50? It's just for informational purposes and I'm not trying to slow us down. Even though it says what it says. Shall have a financial interest in any contract work business of the county or any purchase of property that belongs to the county or the sale of any property of the county. Just so you know, if you own the Ace Hardware store and you're a county board member and your plumber needs to go get a pipe and buys it from the store, there's case law that says that's not really a violation of this because it's so de minimis. It doesn't matter, but I just wanted to let you know that that's out there.
And you have to disclose it. in
Yeah,
your-
right. You disclose it, but
Yeah.
there are like, you're not supposed to do this, but they realize if you're in like Southern Illinois in a county with 3,000 people and there's one hardware store and it's owned by somebody in government, you still get to use it if you have to. I just wanted you to know that. That was all.
So there's no conflict of interest, like, I know,
No, there is, but there's like,
It's
there's,
de minimis.
there's de minimis exceptions.
but my question is, I know
She's off.
Katie Schloss.
Hold on,
I'm off.
hold on. You turned
I
your
keep
button off.
mumbling and talking in my breath. don't wanna
You
be
gotta
quiet.
push your button. I can't turn you on. There we go.
I know that Katie Schloss has done an excellent job of abstaining when something comes up with her husband because he's his sheriff. But this is, the way it's worded, it says, shall have financial interest in the contract. Well, it's her household income. Does that, I mean, how does that work? Because she has every right to be a county board member, right?
She has the right to be a county board member and that's why she abstains because she's not taking part in it.
Okay.
They might have a worse problem if they were the county treasurer and dealt with it directly. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Being one board member of many, and you decide not to vote, you technically didn't take any action to have that occur.
I was just curious about the wording there, so thank you. Do you want me to leave this on? I'll try not to talk. that
Please
back
leave it
breath.
on. Thank you. Ethics ordinance 32065. Now, we did, Phil and I
Yeah.
did go through this and renumber some stuff because it wasn't numbered properly, but it'll be numbered correctly and lettered correctly when it comes before you again.
And this was another one where it was passed at a different time. So instead of going A, B, C, they went 1, 2, and I'm gonna fix all those according to the stylization.
We went through it yesterday. Remember, Newcrest?
This is all, this language is all from state statute.
It says you
correct?
have to pass it substantially this form.
Got it.
Unfortunately, it does.
Are there any questions or do we need to go through this line by line?
You don't really have a choice.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
making it really clear. Do you want to go through it line by line and debate the state? Okay, all right. So we'll go to 32.066. Prohibited political activities, which I believe is also.
Also
State
state statute.
Would you like to go through it line by line? 32.067, gift ban. Same thing.
I think.
Okay, 32.068, ethics advisor. Do
Who
we-
is our ethics advisor?
It is a woman attorney that was appointed by the county executive, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know who it is right now.
No, it's changed. We've had 2 or 3 over the years.
Yeah, we had ex-judge Kathleen Callan for years and
Yes.
she's not,
I don't know. I remember Kathleen. And this year, just so you know, I took the online training yesterday, cute little videos and you're done and you don't have to drive to the county
They
building.
just don't tell you when you miss one. I missed one, and I don't know what it was.
I missed the same one. It's Kisner Law in Essington. That's correct.
I was like.
okay.
She's super busy.
I called somebody 3 or 4 times yesterday, just trying to get in there.
I've been trying to solve this since January 1st.
Okay, do we have any questions? Any concerns? Okay, and I believe the compensation is now sent by the county executive. That's why he struck the part about the county board, because we don't set that. Okay, 32069, and we're gonna strike the -005. I don't remember why, Phil, but,
Because I was trying to put 005s on all the definitions, but I'm not going to do it that way.
okay. And these are all the definitions, and they are numbered because they are not alphabetical, right?
Right.
And that's all from state statute.
Yes.
32.999 penalty, all from state statute.
Except, yeah, these penalties are state statute. I wanted to make sure we didn't set them, but the state statute says what they're supposed to be.
It says the section. All right, can I have a motion to send this to the executive committee?
Motion
As amended.
as amended.
Second, Logan.
Do I have a previous?
Previous Newquist.
Second, Logan.
Do
Or
you
the
guys?
second Freeman if you need somebody different.
Do you want to be a yes on this one, Dan?
No, I'm good with the previous one.
Okay, previous roll is good, okay. All in favor?
I,
All opposed, same sign. Chapter 33, departments, offices, and committees. Do you want to go through each one of these and say why you struck it?
Yes.
Nope.
I don't know why. Because it was before my time even. They said that the sheriff, they referred to the sheriff as the police department. It's never been a police department. Statutes say police departments are municipal or forest preserves, or there's other kinds. The sheriffs are the sheriffs. We do not the sheriff does not participate in the State Police Training Act. There is a local governmental police training entity that they go through. They don't send their people down to there, so I struck all the police department language that's out of there. But I did put in under 33001, basically saying merit commission, that the county board established merit commission for the sheriff's personnel. We did establish that a very long time ago. We added the deputy sheriffs to it later. And I did put in that the jail officers currently identified as deputy correctional officers are under the merit commission. Those are magic words. In order for our correctional officers to qualify for SHLEP, they couldn't be called jail officers, which they used to be called. They couldn't be called just correctional officers. They had to be deputy correctional officers because they had to have the magic word there. And that's what we're currently doing. And so I made it match that. The 33002 exemptions from merit system are the same ones that you have exempted. I just changed the word assigns to appointed because the sheriff appoints these people. Now, they are exempt, which means if I'm the sheriff, if I get elected sheriff, I can bring a guy off the street and make him my chief deputy warden in the jail, and the merit commission doesn't have to certify him. Now, he may not have police powers. In fact, we had an undersheriff before, years ago, was not a sworn policeman. He was a civilian, but he was undersheriff. Couldn't carry a gun, couldn't make arrests, but he ran all the business side of the office many years ago. And that's because they're exempt from the merit system. Now, under 3303, I struck out C, and here's why. The rules and regulations submitted by the Merit Commission that when you get to there, I struck all those out because years ago under statute, both the Merit Commission and the sheriff had the ability to set standards and rules for the deputies. Like the Merit Commission could say a rule, you can't drink on duty, even if the sheriff didn't have that rule. And I'm just throwing something out, making it up. That no longer is the case. The Merit Commission job now is to certify initial hires and certify for appointments. They don't have the ability to make rules because the sheriff controls his internal operations of his office, except for he has to go through central purchasing rules of the county. He does those rules now. The Merit Commission doesn't. I even spoke to the Merit Commission. They don't even have rules anymore on these people. But this was a carryover from years and years ago. You can see this was first adopted in 1965, which was even under the old Constitution. So I struck that to make it match. In 3304, again, I took out police department and called it the county sheriff's office because that's technically what it is. Maybe in 1965, they called it, under the old constitution, maybe they called it a sheriff's police. I don't know. Under paragraph C on the next page, I just said that they shall hold regular quarterly meetings and other meetings called by the commission, which is what the statute says. They can set their own meeting schedule and they meet monthly. But I put in here what the statute is because you don't have the ability to order them to do more than what the statute requires.
So I have a question under
Sure.
33.003 Merit Commission where you list all of the state statutes.
Right.
There is a section there where it says subrec book 237 PP 4587-94,
That was one of your old ordinances.
and then it says subrec book blank.
That's what you previously had in your ordinance. I don't know. I just kept it there for reference purposes.
Are those all getting crossed out?
Mm-mm.
Or they're
No,
not?
That
because
was
it's
my
for
next
historical
question.
records.
Do we
And
need
that's,
all that?
we probably don't, but since it's in parentheses, it's not part of the code. And that's why I left it there. If you want to strike out all those, we could.
Because I mean, somebody's gonna have to go find a book from 1965 or
Well, no, that,
1966.
the county clerk should have it. It should have it.
But if those rules don't apply, why would we keep them in there?
He said for historical.
Yeah.
For historical, I don't know. I just left them because you had them in there before. And again, I wasn't making tactical decisions. If it wasn't legally required, I didn't care. And I have those in a lot of places. And you'll see later, especially when you get into the land use stuff, that it talks not like, the supervisor's record book basically means the county board record books.
Well, I like
Under the
subrec.
old days, it was the county board of supervisors because every supervisor, of every township was a member of the county board. Then there was 20 other county board members elected at large. And I may be wrong with the numbers, but your board used to be 47 people. Yeah, back in the day, that's why it was 1965. It changed after 1970, the name and the term and all that. But I left it in there. If you guys don't want it in there, we can take it out. What do you think?
Well, I have a couple of board members with questions. Member Newquist?
Somebody to bring it up.
I guess my thing is, okay, so let's say I'm reading this. I look at A, I look at B. Now all of a sudden, all I see is a whole bunch of stuff in parentheses. I'm not gonna have any clue as to what that is there for or what it means. I'm gonna think those are probably current rules that we're citing. So I think
Would
if
you
we,
make a motion to strike it?
I'll make a motion to strike. But I was gonna say, if we do feel we want to leave them in there because the historical context might be important, then I think we need to identify them as such.
But that's why they're in parentheses. If they're in parentheses, they're not part of anything. That's just reference material.
I get that, but if I'm a non-county board member or even a county board member not on this committee looking at this, it's gonna confuse the hell out of me, basically, I
That's
think.
what it did. I asked, it's like, why is all this in here?
So I'll make a motion to strike.
I'll second it. It'll move us along.
Well,
We have a.
here's your new, well, let me show you. Your newest one is Resolution 03-525 passed 11/20/2003. That is,
Current.
that's current. That was the previous one. That's the current one we're operating under right now.
So leave it and take.
So we need to
everything
leave
in.
that
But do
in.
you know what I mean? But we
Yeah.
kept the other ones because, and you'll see this throughout these, not just in this section. Every time you amended it, they just kept adding and adding and adding and never subtracting.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially in things like land use, you might have like a lot of them because there was a lot of amendments in some of those areas.
Okay.
Well,
Member,
Does-
Member Bullock. had a
Does the
question.
resolution 03-525 have all of those other things in it? Or is
No,
it
they could
just
be
a
different
little
words.
section?
Could totally change different words. But
Member Bullock
for,
had a question.
do we really need anything from 1965? Anybody that was there, I was 10 years old. Anybody that was there is probably dead that worked at the county then. But so if you want, and I want direction, because I don't think this you don't need to vote on. It's direction because it's stylistic. Maybe we should only keep the things that look like the resolution 03525 that we recognize what they are, and anything that's really old like that, we should get rid of all of them.
Make the motion. We have it on the floor.
Wait, do we have discussion going on?
Yep.
Okay.
And
we have
I keep
discussion.
trying to recognize you. Go ahead,
Okay.
Member Bullock.
So what is listed in C is the history of
The seat is gone.
That history's for the whole
the
section.
things that are in
33.
C, that section.
No, it's for the whole thing, 33003, that's for all of
understand.
them. Okay.
It's under.
No, I understand that, but what it says, these rules are sort of listed below in 33004 through 33015, which we are striking.
Right, then
All of
later
that
you'll
is
see
getting
they're struck.
So the purpose of showing this is irrelevant because everything that you're talking about is not gonna be in there anymore.
No, it may be under the mayor commission is 5 members appointed by the sheriff. These things still cover A and B. Those things in parentheses still cover A
So-
and B.
Everything that covers A and B is listed under C?
No, the
Is that-
parentheses is from the whole section.
No, originally, yes, it was.
So when,
No.
when there's more than
It never
one,
was, it just looks
they
like
put
it.
all of the,
It's at the bottom.
the statutes at the very bottom. Trying to find another example of.
It is confusing though, because it looks
Because
like it's.
going through these,
Seems like
we
this.
see them at the end of sections all the time.
So
Right,
this
but it
is the
includes the whole
ABC,
section
and then
usually.
This is all the.
So then,
No, you guys gotta stop. You really do. One at a time. Sandy cannot do minutes. One at a time. Member Bullock, do you have anything more to say?
so can we move those to L? No? Then if we're gonna leave them, they have to have the note of for historical purposes or something.
Okay,
Because otherwise they're just sitting there and they make no sense.
all right, thank you. Member Butler.
Can say, hey, you, if you get stuck.
No, I didn't get any sleep last night, so I'm just having a little difficult time.
So I like the rules to be laid out. I like to read them. I don't want to read the rules from 1965. I think they could be replaced with the current rules. I kind of like it. Otherwise, we could just stamp 55 ILCS 5 dash, to whatever. And, Jackie can finish up her ad hoc committee and be done. But I think it's important that we put some of these things in there so that people can refer to them, so they don't have to look them up in state statute. So I agree, for historical, maybe, find a plaque to put it on or something somewhere, but for this, maybe we replace it with the current rule.
Okay. The motion on the floor, and that it has been seconded, unless I'm mistaken, is to strike everything except for the 55 ILCS 5-3-8003. Is that correct?
I thought she wanted to keep the resolution 03-5.
I'm asking the maker of the motion.
I need some advice on this. If literally if we are using resolution 03-525 as a guide, if those are our actual rules, then we should include that. If it is not, and we are actually just being governed by 55 ILCS 5-5/3, et cetera, then I think we just need that.
Which one is it, Mr. Mock?
It's just the 55 ILCS 53803. You don't need the resolution 03525. Not for
Okay.
this section.
Okay,
When you go to
Got
land
it.
use, you need all of them.
Right.
Because there's grandfather rules and you gotta know what the previous
Right.
laws were.
I understand that.
No,
but-
we can take
okay.
all of these out of you. If you
Okay.
go to 33002, see where it says resolution 9081?
Yes,
That could be stricken. You don't need to have previous versions referenced, but that's what is happening.
okay.
okay. So we have a motion, we have a second, we have an understanding of the reason for the
I-
motion. Do we
I-
want a roll call?
I wanted to amend that motion to
Okay.
just replace with current rules. Strike those old historical and then list the current rules.
That's what you
That's
just
my
said.
motion.
That
I
is the
didn't hear
motion.
that.
Oh,
when you
yes.
said that.
It
I
is to
did- I
strike
heard it
everything
saying that-
except for the red.
She was just referencing the the statement that it can be found in state statute.
Well, no, I
Fee
was
say-
asking and when I said unless we need it. So I'll restate my motion.
Please.
My motion is to strike everything except 55 ILCS 5/3-8003.
Is everybody understanding the motion that's
Everything
on
under
the
C.
floor?
I will
Thank you,
second
Vince.
that motion.
Well, I think we already had a second,
We
but
already
that's
have.
okay.
Previous.
Second, Trinier. I don't even think I can do that. as
Second,
chair.
Freeman, if you need another
Yeah.
one.
I hate when I don't sleep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Want to stay a no?
Are you
Dan, you're
still a
still a
no?
no?
He's still a no.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to let everybody know something, how it's gonna actually read. What you're gonna see is besides the 55 ILCS 5380003,
Mhm.
you are still gonna have the current version that's passed is gonna be listed. The most current one, when this gets passed in April, it'll say county board, it'll say resolution 25-132 passed April 4th. So we know the current one that passed it, so they can go pull that out for that. That'll still be
That's
there.
fine.
So it won't be listed in the ordinances. Those
No, it-
rules-
No, it'll be, that will
It
be
will be.
listed in parentheses because it
But
shows.
not the actual rules. You have to go look at it. look
No,
up.
the actual rules is this. The words will
Okay.
be here.
Okay, that's what I want.
Yeah.
That's why I was.
No,
resisting.
It'll be, the words will still be here. But if somebody wants to say, how did these words get in there? They'll know, look at this April, whatever resolution from 2025 and read it where you guys passed it. So only the last one will be there. We won't have the historical prior to that, except I'm gonna recommend in land use, we leave those.
Member Newquist.
I would like to make a motion that we go back to 33.002 and remove
Don't worry,
19.
don't worry about it. I'm gonna remove them on all of them because that was my direction, because it's,
Okay, you were just looking for
I
direction.
was looking for direction.
Got it.
And I don't need that from the full board for
Perfect.
stylistic. If you want to go ABC 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3 ABC, you just tell me and I do it your way. I'm just trying to get it all right to go to the board later.
Perfect. I withdraw my motion.
Turn on the AC, if she's got the heater.
I don't know
I'm
why.
freezing over here. This
It's
air
blowing
is
over it right
I know, I think it's horrible.
It's because it's supposed
It
to be
wasn't on
70
earlier?
degrees next week and they're trying to cool the building down for that.
I'm texting Bob.
All right. Okay, so for stylistic purposes, going for this entire chapter, for all these chapters we're working on, chapter 30, and he's
Right, we
gonna
won't list
strike
the old
this
ones.
historical stuff. Everybody's good with that. When we get to land use, it's not gonna happen, okay?
Probably. And there
Everybody
may
but
be,
Dan.
maybe something else, but I know for land use, you need
Okay.
to know it.
All right, can we get back to 33.004? Maybe?
Yeah, like you can see, I changed Joliet because believe it or not, it's unincorporated right now where the Mayor Commission office is out at the sheriff's station.
Mhm.
So I made it just say Will County. And I put sheriff's office instead of police department to fix that. And again, I had that, just the meetings matched by statute. And then K, I put down that they may employ staff due to budgetary restrictions. Because I think the state law for the Mayor Commission says the county board has to authorize them to have staff. They have it, so I wanted you to authorize it.
33.005?
Okay. 33.005 disciplinary measures. I struck everything out, because they no longer control discipline by statute, and I just said, jurisdiction of the Mayor Commission, there statutorily provides the authority to Mayor Commission for hirings, promotions, and disciplinary matters. I referred it to state statute, because what state statute says, if there is a collective bargaining agreement, they can elect to take appeals of discipline through an arbitrator instead of appeals of discipline through the Merit Commission. So I referred it just to state statute. Prior to that, we had a whole procedure on how the sheriff suspended somebody more than by statute 30 days, by contract 14 days. They had to do all this appeal to the mayor commission to get it reversed. Now they don't have to, so we don't need all that
It's all governed by their collective bargaining.
bargaining agreement.
The next one, just keep going. They're
Okay,
all
okay.
struck, so.
Yeah, there's a
All of
lot.
these items are
All
covered
of
by
these
the.
stuff are struck. And the reason we strike all of these is because all of them are no longer under the purview of the merit commission. They're under the purview of the sheriff, other than the fact that they certify for the appointments. Their requirements for this are all struck. In fact, the merit commission at one time, I think I see it in here. We had a guy in the merit commission that came from the state police, and he wanted all the deputies to have college degrees. And that's not a state statute requirement. They can't set requirements higher than that. So that's why we're striking all these. And I ran through all these strikes with the merit commission chief and the staff, and they're not upset by any of these being struck. Same with the, should go one at a time. Same with classification of ranks 33007. That doesn't need to be there. The 33008 appointments to the
Can I
department.
ask about
Sure,
33007?
sure.
It says the county board sets the number of deputy correctional officers at 250.
Right.
And
Oh, you mean not the ones struck out? You want to go to the ones that
Correct.
exist? Good. I don't want to talk about strikeouts no more. Okay. Well, can we back up one?
yeah,
33006,
The new 33 oh.
the new one. Creation rules, regulations, auxiliary police department. That one says
You gotta go.
the county board sets a number at
the 80, I missed that, yeah.
But I wanted to point
I
out,
don't have.
here's what
any of
happened.
those, So it's very frustrating.
the county board, the sheriff has a unique office. It's one of the only offices, no, the state's attorney and the sheriff are unique offices.
Okay.
It's, I think, the only offices where you set the number of employees
Oh,
by the statute. Now, you've always set the number of actual deputies by statute.
mhm.
Well, I'm aware that we have auxiliary police officers, we have court security officers. And there may even be others, but we didn't have it set by a number. And I'm like, how the heck are you doing that? You're supposed to set your number. And they are like, I don't know, they didn't have a good answer. So I said, we gotta have it set. So I asked the sheriff, what's your current number? What does your number need to be?
Mhm.
I believe the auxiliary deputy, and again, the auxiliaries aren't paid. But I said, what's your current number? And they said like 74. And I said, will 80 be enough? And they said, 80 should be enough. And if you need more, you come back to them. Because you never have 80 guys on duty at one time.
Right.
And, they're sort of like part-time and they're, they do the election stuff. I think they
Right.
might get paid by the county clerk for that one.
Um,
But, so I asked for a number and they gave me a number, so that's how 80 got in there for 33006.
Does somebody want to change the number? It's okay.
I got a question.
Sure.
We have to change, regulations of auxiliary police department. It's not a police department, they're deputies.
Oh,
Is that how
yeah,
Yeah.
that should say,
Where are
auxiliary.
you at?
It is not an auxiliary police department. I missed that.
Yeah, it should say auxiliary sheriff
Sheriff's
department,
deputy.
sheriff's deputy.
Where are you at?
In the
title.
article,
Title,
and
And then
also
the
in
first
line
one.
number 1,
yes.
Yeah.
under A.
It
Could you
should say county
refer to them
auxiliary
as deputies
deputy.
the rest of the time?
Thank you.
Good catch. That's what we're losing.
It's the new one that you're looking
3306.
That's the only thing I had for that.
Yes, I didn't catch that one. I want to changed it.
Got it. Anything else? 33007, the new one?
The new one for Staffing County Jail?
Yep.
Again, their numbers are close to 250, but I asked them to pad it, or I suggested to pad them a little. I don't know how many they have. I think it's 232. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And we're understaffed. We know
But
that.
but
We
it
have overtime.
also,
No.
they can't go above their budget. You know what I mean? If they don't have enough money, they can't hire them, but I wanted to have them.
Here's Mike one. I think they time off.
Oh, what the heck?
They time off.
His
Sherry's
button.
Sherry's went off.
I don't even know when it went off.
Okay, so my question is, so deputy correctional officers, we have it set at 250.
Mhm.
Should we base it upon a certain percentage or something? I mean, how do we know that 250 is right?
Because I called and asked them how many they had and said, put a few extra on it just in case. That's
So
all.
if it says 250, they don't necessarily have to have
No,
250.
no, no, it's up to.
Okay.
You set the maximum number by state statute.
I believe the old phrase was Manning.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was gonna be my concern. Like, is this mandating?
No.
That, okay, so then maybe,
Up to.
should we change it like up to or a maximum of
Not to
250?
exceed.
But
Or,
the statute says you set the number and you're just supposed to come up with a number.
okay, so it's implied that it's a maximum.
Right, it's the maximum.
Okay,
But even though they may never have 250, they're still likely going to go over their budget because of the overtime that happens because they
Right.
don't have enough bodies. I mean, that's been a consistent problem for decades. There's just not enough staff and we pay overtime.
I mean, I guess my only concern is like, what if they decide they need 260?
Well,
Now
then
we
Then they
got,
come to you.
and then we gotta go back and we
Yep,
have to
they
amend the
come to us,
ordinance
And
and,
this is where what I said at the beginning, if they
Right.
come to us and ask for a resolution to change it to 260, we would have this attached to it.
right,
And when we made the change, it would go into this and go into the resolution.
got it. Thank you.
So,
Member Ogala,
so it's implied that it's not to exceed 250,
correct.
even though it says at 250, because you could read it probably both ways.
No, but you set the number, and that's how the statute reads. It doesn't say set a number up to, so that's why it says at 250.
So they don't, so they might think that they have to have 250.
They
don't-
would never think
I
that.
think they do.
They don't
but
think
okay.
that.
Well, the deputy sheriff was just in and said that the jail,
You
the
did it,
daily
public health.
average,
Census.
population for the jails had decreased by 76.4%, and that there were no people being forced on overtime.
That's
And I
fantastic.
think they closed some pods.
Yeah, they just said that. I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you.
That's good for us. That's fantastic.
And so then just also the,
Hold on, one person at a time.
Sorry.
Member
just that
Ogala.
we would then capitalize deputy correctional officers. So we're consistent with the first sentence.
Didn't I do that?
No, the first
Oh, at the
sentence.
bottom. I didn't do it at the bottom. I
Right.
see it.
Just a,
No, I'm gonna double check all those too,
Okay.
because it
I just-
refers to
I
an
just
actual
have-
Oh,
office.
hold on. Member Freeman.
I just have to say, I don't think 76%, I think it was 76 people they were down, so they've closed some sections off. But,
That
I
makes
did the
more sense,
numbers
yeah.
and it didn't add up.
Yeah. But,
Well,
It wasn't-
I would, who is the person that said this?
Deputy Deputy Dan Jungles, and the report is in the public health and
Yeah,
safety.
feel free to reach out to him or look through your report or your meeting minutes to find the answer to that important question. Okay, 33.008.
I talked to the sheriff. I had him take out you setting the specific rate, because how they do that rate is based on the, well, let me back up. Sworn reimbursement personnel fund is for hiring deputies and or deputies in cars to like do a wedding or do the turnaround at Univan or the
Like
turnaround
Track.
or racetrack work. And instead of having you guys set the rate like that, how they set the rate or how they want to set the rate is based on the hourly rate of the deputies, the hourly rate they put on for the car. And I think they told me they're charging more than these rates now. That's why I struck it.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Vice Chair Logan, you're right. We have talked about this before since I've been on the board, and it is significantly higher. And I think they charge a rate like that to the communities that we police that are incorporated, like, is it Frankfurt Square?
Right, Homer Glen?
And Homer Glen, and we have a flat rate per hour, and I think that's what they charge for everything. I don't think it's just for the special event. That's just the rate that they charge.
But that's, I wanted to say, that's why I struck the rate,
Yep.
because it's not current, and
No, it's.
my
probably from
conversation with
1981.
them, every time there's a new contract, I didn't want to have to come back and change this every time it went up.
Member Bullock has a
So-
question.
To keep the idea that there is a rate being charged in here, and you said it's related to their contract?
It's to their costs.
It's not a contractual thing that is bargained.
No,
Okay, so can we say the rate to be charged will be set by X? Whoever set
The
by
sheriff.
by the sheriff's department, or,
you could put that in if you wanted to. He sets it now under, he controls the internal operations of his office.
so,
But if
because
you
then
wanna-
we are at least showing in these ordinances that there is a rate charged.
Okay,
Instead of acting like it's kind of who's paying for it, or it's free, or whatever.
well, but what you're mainly doing is establishing the fund, because you can establish funds for the treasurer to set up funds to process the money through. That's what it's saying you're doing, but I think it would make perfect sense to say the rate to be charged for this service shall be determined by the sheriff,
Perfect.
if you want to do that. So people know there is a rate.
Yeah. Because I don't want our ordinances changes to be something somebody says, doesn't say I have to pay anything here. Doesn't say they can charge me anything.
Right. But they won't get the troops if they don't pay the payment.
Right.
And this is, sorry, this is just establishing the fund, like you said,
Correct.
right? Okay.
It's
It is
just-
to establish the fund, because it's one of the funds that you have to create. It's not a statutory fund. And I double check with the treasurer, that fund exists. Because there's some funds that don't exist anymore, and I check with them to get them out. Okay, I struck Police Management Association because I don't think that is one anymore. And now it's for court security officers. I set that up only for you to set the number, because there's a state statute that authorizes court security officers. It doesn't specifically say you set the number, but I wanted you to set the number because technically they fall under like sheriff's, police people. And there is the thing that say you set the number for the deputies, they're sworn officers under the sheriff, even though they're court security. This is another one where I asked, how many do you have? How many do you need? The number 100 came up when I talked to the guy that supervises that section. There probably isn't 100 at any time, because it's the guys that basically do like your security here and at the courthouse and at River Valley. And he said 100 would be enough. I don't even think they're at 80 right now, but they get a lot of guys that want to do it, and then they only want to work like, 5 hours a year.
Right.
So they need a lot of numbers for that. So if that was okay.
Member Newquist.
Now, this says not to exceed.
That's because the statute doesn't say you set the number for court security officers. The
Um,
other statute said you shall set the number.
Got it.
Your question?
That's why I said not to exceed. I made that one up.
Okay.
But I just wanted to be consistent, and the sheriff had no trouble with you setting a number to be consistent.
Got it.
But I can put an ad if you want, but the reason I use not to exceed is because that's just how I created it.
Fine.
It's fine. As long as we have the difference between the two.
That was, yeah.
Do we,
Yes,
do we need to add like without board approval, or
What do you mean?
No.
that's a sin?
No, that is, it's his
Sheriff's
call by
decision.
statute.
that's implicit.
Okay.
He can always ask.
It used to be board approval before they passed all the independent control statutes.
I really would like to finish this chapter if everybody's okay with that.
Mhm.
Plating department,
It just merely shows you created it because you have to create it. It doesn't exist by itself.
records management department,
In the same thing with that one, I changed the name to what they actually are called now. They've been called many things.
Letter
Oh,
B, you guys struck out the very last word board, and I don't know why.
yeah.
Is it because that's the county executive?
Where are you?
Yes, because they work.
Letter
under-
B, under
the county.
creation of the records management.
Right.
Department, letter B, very last word.
They do work under the executive.
So we should put.
If you want me to put
executive.
executive
Yeah.
instead of board, I can.
Please, yes.
I can do that.
Yeah, add executive there.
All right.
Any other questions with the records management? Health Department, 33.060.
I struck home health agency and home health service because they said they don't have that. They don't even know where that came from. That's how long ago it's been since those things took place.
Well, you got 1966 down there, so.
Any questions on that one? Okay, moving on to 33.061. I'm guessing that's all out of statute.
That's, yes, and it's,
Okay, you want to talk about 33.062?
yes. I talked to them and they said that they wanted that out of there because they don't do home health services, which was the home health agency up above.
Very good. 33.063.
That
Yes.
just merely creates the animal protection services. You have that other chapter
Resolution.
90 that talks about all their powers.
And we passed a resolution last year to change the name, so.
Right.
Office of Juvenile Services, 33.075.
That got taken out of your authority to create in a state statute, just put it strictly under the courts. So you created it originally when you had the ability to, and I think you put it under the courts originally, but the state statutes progressed where now that's not necessary.
Okay. Advisory Committee to review locations for landfills.
Obviously, we only
33.090.
needed that once and it's done.
Any questions? Okay, Advisory Board to review applications for Community Development Block Grant / Home Funds, 33.105.
I changed all the names to match what they are and the numbers to match what they are. I talked to, I forgot who it was. I talked to somebody at the county land.
Martha.
I talked to Martha on it and she told me what to put in there and I did it.
Last name, I always mess it up.
Stodge.
I have a question, Jen.
Yes.
Yes, Member O'Gallon.
Thank you. So we struck out the location for landfills, although we have a landfill committee right now. And we do have to go through the EPA and everything like that, whatever choice we decide for the expansion of the landfill, whether it's up, horizontal, to another parcel nearby or something like that. So we don't need this still though?
No,
It's-
because this is not the same committee. This was where to pick an original location for is what this committee was.
Okay,
Your current committee is, are we gonna, and again,
expand or not?
expand? And number two, if you want another location, you can still do that. And state statute controls it. They merely, this was passed in order to encourage the United States Congress to give us the property at
Okay.
the arsenal to show, look, we got steps we're taking to do a landfill. It sure would be nice if we got some property to do it on. That's why this was passed back in 82.
Even if we chose to do a landfill, instead of expanding the existing one, if we wanted to go somewhere else.
You could still do that. You don't need this.
Okay,
This, again, this was done to try to grease the wheels to get the county property down that we have right now.
okay.
Okay, anything more on that one? Okay, Stormwater Management Planning Committee.
And I tried to update that to the current, county board districts. They're good for 10 years. I struck out all the old ones. And that was what basically that section was. The powers and duties under 123 didn't really change anything. For road improvement impact fee advisory committee, I was told by Highway Department, we don't really have one, so I was striking it.
Where are you now?
Oh, I was at the next section,
33.135, the next.
33,135. It was right after powers and duties of stormwater. You got to go through all those
District changes.
district changes.
The boundaries. That happens every 10 years.
Is it important to keep those precincts there?
I think it is so people know who's going to get appointed into them, that you got to be from certain districts. It lets this public know if I'm interested in being in it, I got to go to this committee because I'm located here where my residence is.
Yeah, this is 33.122, right?
Yeah, and then go to, after that, at all those, there's 1, 2, 3. Has not changed. It's the same powers for stormwater. And then you go to Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee, 33,135. We don't have one.
I was gonna say, I'm not seeing it.
No, I struck through it. It don't exist.
And the city county advisory.
The same
committee
thing. There's no
designated.
city county advisory committee. I don't know what that is even for. Nobody here knew what it was for.
It was passed in 2010 though.
Yeah, but I don't know why.
I don't remember it,
Oh,
and I'm sure I voted on it.
no, I think I know what it is. I think it had to do with all the land swaps for the new courthouse.
You don't think it had something to do with the Laraway or something with the,
Well, that was all involved.
because it talks about District 8, and at that time, that was Herb and Denise, and they got all the extra money out of that landfill. Like there was an
Yes, they did.
annual payment to their district that they could direct to
I-
a charity or what have you. I'm thinking that's what this was for.
Maybe. I don't know what it is for. I was
That's the
guessing.
only time we did something special for District 8,
Yes,
And I talked to.
that's correct.
and it doesn't exist anymore.
No, ran
So
out.
I think you're fine. to
And the
strike it.
city didn't even know about it either, so that's why I struck it.
Well, I don't know why they named it that because the city wasn't on it. It was the majority and minority leader, capital improvements chair, county board member from District 8, and the county board chairperson.
But it
Okay.
doesn't matter, because it doesn't exist
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So we're just
I
striking.
don't even know why they named it that. Then you have 33.165.
Finance, and that hasn't changed. And the duties haven't changed either. I did put in the definition for CAFR because we want to always have our definitions with our acronyms.
I just have a question.
And believe it or not, folks, we made it to
Wait.
the end of the.
But I have a
chapter.
question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I took a nap or what, but 33.105, the establishment of the CDBG group. It says comprised of 15 members. It says county executives, the chair. Do we have to say what else the board is comprised of? It says 15 members.
No. You guys never did say what it was before, I don't think. It just, that was a minimum and then you guys decided yourself how you wanted to fill it out.
Okay, because we do have board members and.
No, it doesn't, it
Representatives of the
doesn't say you
villages.
can't have them or you could have them. You can put whoever you want on it.
Yeah, right now, the county executive, I assume, decides she makes the appointments.
And it's the speaker, somebody else. is
It's
on there.
the minority leader,
One of the.
Democrat leader, Republican, there's one from each, and then there's all the villages
All the villages.
and some townships. I mean,
Right.
that's how that's done, and
I
that's
just
for-
wanted to clarify if we had to. do
Yeah.
that.
No, you didn't have to spell
It
it out.
wasn't
You
in
wanted to
here
have
before.
flexibility. I believe that's why they
But
originally.
15 members we limited to.
Right.
Right. Because I thought originally it was greater and it got unwieldy, so they pared it back.
Okay,
Okay.
it works, I think.
Can I have a motion to move chapter 33 to the executive committee next month
As amended.
Mhm.
as amended?
Motion.
Second, Raymond.
Previous loaded.
Second Bullock. All those in favor?
I,
Those opposed, same sign. And I assume Mr. Butler is still a no. Okay.
To make it easy.
That's fine. Thank you, everybody. I mean, that's 3 chapters. That's good. And then next month, we will look at title 10 and chapter 30 for those Scrivener's errors and just go through everything that Jim had given us the other day.
I'm gonna ask Sandy to put that down under old business.
Okay.
And it'll be a review of it.
Right.
And if you guys want to open it up and re-amend stuff, you could if it's not right, but I'm hoping it's right and you're just gonna look at it and say it's right.
And I would urge
Yeah,
you,
and Article 10.
beg you, plead with you to please read chapters 34, 35, 36, and 37 and call Mr. Mock with any questions or concerns, or email him. Yes, sir.
Okay, going forward from 5 on, I've broken them up by each chapter. I put page numbers on. I'm gonna send to Sandy to send out to all of you.
The new ones?
New ones from 31 on, they'll all have page numbers, but I'll also fix everything else we discussed that I don't have right. I'm talking on the stylization type things.
And the amendments
And-
we made or
Well, no, I'm gonna redo 31, 32, and 33 with the amendments to go forward. And they'll be right, but I'm just letting you know, you're gonna get a new, I already gave you the stuff, but I'm gonna have it sent to you again. It's gonna have like a new April 1st date on it or some kind of date.
With page numbers.
So I know which, but it'll have page numbers.
Which is
And
super
I'm gonna
nice.
try to correct the stylistic things that we discussed
Okay.
on those going forward.
And you'll get that in plenty of time
Oh,
for
yeah.
this next committee.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay? And I just got to tell you, Mr. Mock has been super. He met with me yesterday. We went over actually all of these through 37. I urge you. What are your office hours again?
Doesn't have it.
I don't have any, but this is what I don't care. You can call me at home too. I don't charge the county if I'm not here, but
He'll meet you.
I'll meet you. I don't care.
He came to my.
I'm retired. I'm not
which
doing
was nice,
anything.
But he can come here to the county and sit down with you for an hour. If you don't want to call him and you don't want to email him, you sit down with him.
What I'm
and
gonna
you
do-
Go through it.
I'm gonna, when I am emailing Sandy and Chuck, I'm gonna give all my phone numbers and stuff like that. My direct line on my desk.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm usually only here till around noon because I'm limited in hours but some days I take off. But if you call my phone and it's not there, I'm gonna give you a message, call my house next because I got a landline still. I'm old. And then call my cell third
Mhm.
because I don't answer my cell very, unless I leave the house, it may not be on me. But no, I'm more than happy and I won't have my computer, but I'll have the paper copies at home with me and I can discuss them with you.
He's really trying to do everything he can so that we can move through this in an expeditious manner when we get together. Remember, this is the second time we're going through this, not the first, the second.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
However, being new to the committee,
Mm-hmm.
and when you redo your committees
Mm-hmm.
every 2 years or whatever, and you don't complete the work that you started in your
Mhm.
committee, then yeah, you do have to do it over again. And I think that the decision to bring chapter by chapter to the executive board will probably keep this from happening again. But no guarantees.
No guarantees.
And I'm not opposed to calling Phil, but I don't think that 12 of us should be calling Phil when we have a committee meeting. I know you want to get through this. I understand you've been through this already. I sympathize with that. I have done this kind of work myself and been through it many times. Don't punish us because of the way it was handled before.
No, don't want to punish
So-
anybody. And my goal is to get through this before the next 2 years and we get a brand new committee again. And that's why it's so important. That's what didn't happen the last 2 years. Things never got to the executive committee. I don't know why. I don't care. It's not anybody's fault.
Because
It's just what happened.
it's my fault because I wanted to get an entire chapter done and send them title, not, you know what I mean? Not a chapter, a title 3. Well, we saw how many chapters there are and we never could get them all done.
I know. So that's why I'm really trying to push to get things to the executive, to get them to the board so that we can get it done before we have to change the committee makeup again.
Yeah.
Member Ogala. Oh, I saw the green and stopped paying attention. Hold on. I think,
I'm on now. Thank you. So one of the things we did with our county board rules, we put a change in there to say that we should review the ordinances every so many years because we're doing all this because the ordinance, it had not been changed for years and years and years and years. So we put it in the county board rules because not everyone, county board member reads the ordinances, but we do read the rules every 2 years. And if nothing else, we'll say, well, when was the last time we did that? Maybe we need to look at it again because we hadn't looked at it in how long, Phil, was it?
But I would just
So-
say, Member Ogala, I think the process that the state's attorney is going to be putting in place, we aren't going to have to do that per se. I mean, there still might be some for state changes, statute changes. But as far as like when we make a change in our rules or we make a new resolution, if it affects an ordinance, they will be together,
We're gonna ask them to pass a change of the ordinance at the same
At
time,
the
so they
same time.
hopefully will always.
Which is good.
yeah.
And
But
we just
again,
put in the rules as a
spring-
reminder. That's
Yeah,
all.
and Springfield makes changes.
All the
and-
time.
And then we really do have to go back through those sections and see if there were any law changes this year. So you're right about that. But hopefully going forward, when we make a change to any kind of rule through a resolution, that if it affects an ordinance, that ordinance will be there as part of the packet.
Which is good.
Right. Member Butler.
So I can appreciate wanting to get through the meetings quick and try to get, information from Phil, or at least ask him questions. But at the same time, I want everyone to feel comfortable to ask any questions that they need to. And I think that with the ordinances having not been done in so long, that it's important that we go through them properly and get them done right. And to me, the time frame is second to that. And so I don't think any harassment of people for asking questions should occur.
But you should read your packet ahead of time and have your questions together. And as Mr. Mock has asked us to do, because remember, he's not here for free. We're paying him and he is in his office and we're paying him when he's in his office. We should take advantage of that resource to ask the questions, to get our answers, to understand about the historical or what have you. Again, he has offered and really implored us to take advantage. Member Freeman.
I would just request, and I requested this last time, and it was very frustrating today. I had black and white scratched through and it didn't work. I need new copies with a red line.
And I think he's,
I'm sending
Getting those.
the,
I
elec-
mean, print it out for me. I,
staff will do it. All you have to do is.
yeah, because I don't have a color printer. I can't
yeah, no,
print.
you shouldn't have to print all this, but,
No, he
I
will do
need
it.
to update this because it's,
I
what
know.
I have is old and
No, I've updated mine twice already. Mr. Mock.
I just wanted, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You got to realize Article 3 is one of the worst articles. Some of the other ones are like so tiny. And some of the other ones you just recently did. So we can say you just passed this 2 years ago. There's not a lot of updating we need to do. But 3 was the worst one. Like I said, I got, 5, 7, and 9 almost completely done. And a lot of those are so inconsequential and there's no changes that it's going to go faster eventually. It's
hope
just
so.
3's a rough one.
But really, really take advantage of the resource that we have because Phil keeps office hours. And if we don't ask him to do something, meet with us, answer a question, he's getting paid and maybe not doing anything.
And again,
Maybe. I don't know. I don't
I-
know what his arrangement is.
I don't care. I don't charge, and I don't care if you call me at home.
Mhm.
When Colette was the county executive's attorney,
Mhm.
she'd call me at home like 2-3 times a week. And I never cared. I never charged because I would always give her whatever information I could give her.
Right.
And I would do the same with you guys. The only time I charge is when I'm
In the office.
in the office or at your meetings because because I have to keep track of my time. But I did check with IMRF. As long as I don't charge, I can spend more hours. It doesn't matter. They don't care. So I don't care.
He's,
all of these things, all these directions.
Yes, and I worked on her with them.
Got right back. I think I went-
And it was helpful and it did help me with the stylization stuff, which
which we worked on again
Yeah.
yesterday.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're working
Well,
on it.
this is hard work and everything you guys are doing is really appreciated. I'm just asking maybe for a little bit more. Just so we can go a teeny bit faster, not, super fast, because we want to be thorough. We want to do a good job. But again, we're going through this now for the second time. And I'm hoping, well, Vince has told me we're going a little faster. So
If we
that's
get it-
good. We've made progress, so that's a good thing. So thank you, everybody, for your hard work. I have no new business. Public comment. Hey, Peanut Gallery. Public comment, any public comment? All right, no announcements or reports. I think I've already said that. We have no executive session. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is April 8th.